And let's talk about, obviously, the Kevin Owens program is one. I think it was maybe something that initially people didn't think was going to become this huge part of the show. You know, the lead up to WrestleMania, everyone was saying this should be the Universal title match and all this sort of stuff. But when you guys first came together, what was the idea with you and Kevin Owens as a partnership? Because what was the idea initially before it started escalating?
The idea initially is just getting to know him and saying, this guy's funny, man. He's really funny. He's got a great sense of humor. I remember just working a couple random matches where I was like, I could do something with this guy. Like, it seemed so weird at the time. Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens were on different levels and didn't really look the same or wrestle the same. But just his personality was so sardonic and sarcastic. And this won't make you laugh, but it still makes me laugh when they were talking about Trump getting in the presidency. And somebody was like, oh, I knew Trump was going to get in years ago. I predicted it. And it was like Kurt Cobain, Trump was going to get in 94. And I predicted Kurt Cobain or Trump was going to get in 3 years ago. And Kevin goes, I predicted he was going to get in when I was 5 years old. And it's not funny. No, he said, no, I predicted Trump was going to win when I was a baby. And it's not funny, but with his French accent and the dry way he delivered it, I was laughing. I was like, this guy is really funny. And what happened was we were in London in last April, and we did some random tag team match. And at the end, he ran down the aisle and jumped in my arms. Because Vince had told him, you act like you just won the World Series. Act like you won the Stanley Cup, the Super Bowl. Because I had gotten the pin, but you act like it's the biggest thing ever. So he was, and he ran to that. He went and jumped in my arms and like, oh my God, like he's a big dude. Like, I remember bracing myself, and then he hit me and like I kind of held him. He's like, yes. And then we went up the ramp and he goes, we're the best. He goes, you're the goat and I'm the donkey. We're the best. I'm like, yeah, you're the donkey, the goat and the donkey. And we got back and Vince was laughing his ass off and I was laughing and we were all laughing like this. We got something here. So we kind of were loosely linked up, doing some stuff. And then I had originally pitched, went to Japan in June and I came back, or July, and I came back and I'm talking to Vince. You got to bring this Nakamura guy up to the main roster. I want to work with him. Let's debut him at WrestleMania. And Vince was like, well, that could work. And that's when I said, I'll stay till WrestleMania if I can work with Nakamura. He's like, done. And then about a month later, I said, that Nakamura thing, I said, I think Kevin Owens and I could be WrestleMania. And he goes, do you think? I said, I think as well. Yeah, maybe. And then there's another funny thing is I was supposed to work with Finn Balor at SummerSlam. I pitched that when I worked with Finn the previous year in Japan. Anytime I go to Japan, I come back and tell Vince, why do you have these guys wasting their time in NXT? Bring them to the main league. And so it's going to be me and Vince at SummerSlam, and then Vince changed his mind and then put me and Kevin together as a team against Enzo and Cass, and that was the official pairing. Mm-hmm. But we had started kind of bumping into each other the previous April. And
obviously the list is a big thing now. How did the list originally come about? What was the origination of that becoming a thing for you?
Well, I started working with this guy called Chris Scoville. I don't even know his Scoville, who's Jimmy Jacobs. He was a wrestler on the independent scene, and he became a writer. Never met him before in my life, and at first, I'm kind of a little bit, there's a wall. I don't trust a lot of people, especially writers, because I've seen so many come and go. And there's only been two that I've ever really, really loved working with. One is Brian Gewirtz, who's now The Rock's personal writer, head of his production company. Great guy and great writer for me. And I've worked with a couple other good ones, but then I started working with Jimmy Jacobs. And he would come up with some really cool stuff. And I started, like I said to Dave Kapoor, who was the head writer of Raw, can you just put me with Jimmy from now on? I don't want to work with anybody else. So whenever I have a promo, I'm with Jimmy Jacobs. And we would banter ideas back and forth. And always came up with great shit. I remember at SummerSlam last year, I did, was it SummerSlam? Some pay-per-view. Randy Orton came back, and a highlight reel with Randy Orton. And Randy's the same as me, very guarded. He's like, who's this Jimmy Jacobs? Like, dude, I'm telling you, from dude to dude, he's good. So Jimmy came in the room, we wrote the thing with me, Randy, and Jimmy, and afterwards, I was like, he's great. I was like, I told you, he's great. So anyways, Jimmy, one day, I think it was back in September, right after that SummerSlam thing, and he's like, hey, what do you think? Like, this week you'd always come up with something. Like, this week, what do you think about, like, putting somebody on, like, your list? Like, you got a list of, like, people that, like, your list. And I was like, it's great, let's do it. So, I think somehow maybe I said the List of Jericho or something. At that point, I was already saying the Gift of Jericho, drink it in, man. So I think it was the List of Jericho, write it in, man, or write the names in, man, or whatever it was. And it was funny, and it worked. So the next week, I was like, hey, put some on the list again. I was like, let me actually have a list. So we got a red clipboard, did it again. And then I was like, this is really getting over. And then I did one with the New Day. Because at first, like, oh yeah, you're on the list. No, you're on the list. And then the New Day, I put all 3 of them on the list. And the first one, Kofi Kingston, you just made the list. And then Big E's kind of laughing or huddling. Oh, you know what happens, Big E? When you huddle around and don't talk to Chris Jericho, you know what? You just made the list. And then Woods starts, oh, and you're going to laugh, Woods? You know what happens when you laugh and your friends go on the list? You just made the list. And that's kind of where that voice came from. Mm-hmm. And that's where it's got super pops. And I remember coming back, I was like, dude, this is over. So then I went to WWE Props. Vince wasn't there that week, so I got him to make a big list that was thick and made of metal so I could use it as a weapon if need be, which we never really did. But the idea was to make, because I was going to make, it was going to be my tennis racket or my cell phone, you know, Paulie's cell phone. And that's kind of how it all started. And then suddenly this fucking thing just got huge. And it was funny, in about December or so, we went back and looked at how many times. I only put like 5 or 6 people on the list very sparingly, but it got over so huge. And now it's like, dude, the List of Jericho is the biggest thing, along with like the Drink It In, man, different version of that. Those 2 things, Stupid Idiot, Quiet. It's like, if I was in a rock band, like I'm in a late era of my career, and like I put up this new album that has like 5 of my biggest hits ever, when I haven't had a hit like in 10 years. And that's what this is like. Everything I did, like it was like, let me see if I can get the word it over. Because I did a thing with Kevin Owens, we do a lot of improv, and I said, hey, you better watch it. And he said, watch what? Which was really funny, and I just went, it. And I was like, I can probably get that word over. Let me see if I can get it over, just as like kind of a lesson or a drill. So yeah, I was in such a great place and so confident in my abilities that I could get anything over. And that's a good place to be.
I mean, there's a lot of kind of times in WWE and wrestling in general, I mean, you don't get the long-term stories that you used to get before. But with you and Kevin, it was so long-term, and there was various times where you would kind of almost break up with him, or he would almost break up with you. How important was it for you to do a long-term story and to connect people and have them not know where it was going to go week to week?
Because my idea was always WrestleMania. I think Vince at first was saying, let's see how far we can go. Because I remember thinking, I don't think we can go that long. And then he won the world title. And then it was like, now he's got a heater in me. And then now it's like I'm helping him out all these jams. And then we do Hell in a Cell where I get the key. And then I think once we got to about December, I started pitching to Vince. I said, listen, like this Jericho character, this is not me. This is the most popular I've ever been. I said, you could put the world title on this guy if you wanted to. And this is not pitching. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And I said, why don't we have a title match at the Royal Rumble? Me and Owens. And what if I win? And then he wins, the next week. Because originally I think he was supposed to work with Brock at WrestleMania. And Vince finally came back to me and talked me back in about, I don't know when exactly it was, but he said, I want you to beat Owens for the title at WrestleMania. And then you lose to Brock. And I was like, fuck yeah. And then that changed next week, but that led to me being in the Shark Cage at the Royal Rumble, all that sort of stuff. But we worked it so that we weren't together all the time. We actually did break up for a few weeks, I think, and then kind of got back together again. We knew where we were going. We just had to pave the way to get there. And then I came up with the Festival of Friendship in Las Vegas, and that was about 2 months before. I knew exactly where we had to do it. And the Festival of Friendship was my idea from the start.
Can you talk a little bit about that, though, because we kind of mentioned this earlier on to each other, was in wrestling you've got partnerships, or maybe partnerships that you think, this is going to break up or whatever, but you didn't never really know when it was coming.
No, you didn't know. And that's what we want. We would tease it and go to the brink and maybe even break up. I remember, like I said, there's a couple, and then we get back together again. Mm-hmm. I think there was one time when something happened where I came to the ring, I code break, give Owens a code breaker, and then kind of pick him up smiling. I caused him to get DQ'd, so he wins the match, and then I pick him up and we hug. Like that was the big reunion. And people didn't know. And no matter what anybody says, you never knew even Festival of Friendship. Nobody knew for sure. They didn't know what was going to happen. And that's good storytelling. And that's, like I said tonight, that's where I get off the most, whether it's Shawn Michaels or the Rey Mysterio or the Big Show. When we were partners, we had such a great story. And that, to me, is why I do this. I don't want to be there ever just to be a guy. I need to have a spotlight. I need to have a story that I believe in, and I can always make it good.
And with the Festival of Friendship, can you talk a little bit about the idea behind it? Because it was kind of multi-layered, right? Because you had the gifts that you gave him, and then the list, because it really kept people wondering.
Well, the idea was, like you said, it was in Las Vegas, and we were trying to think what's the best time to break up, and Vince wanted it earlier than later, and some people thought it was too early to do it, but Vince is very smart, newsflash, and he knew that was the time to do it. And Vegas being such a pomp and circumstance, I said, let's have it. Festival of Friendship in Vegas. We'll have the Festival of Friendship dancers, chorus line dancers. I remember right from the start, I said, I want Friendship the magician to be there, kind of a magician doing tricks. You know, and then at the end of it, Kevin will attack me. And then it kind of continued to more. Vince insisted there had to be some kind of a statue, like a sculpture. So that was Vince's. And then somebody came up with the creation of Kevin or whatever. And like I didn't even see that until the day I got there. And I was fucking howling. Oh my God, that's so great. And then I think
kids.
Yeah, right. And I think Kevin even might have been the one that said, you know, I give you a list of my own, the list of KO. So that was all in there as well. And we went over this, and Vince approved it, and everything was rehearsed. Not rehearsed. It was all a done deal. But then, in that day in Vegas, Vince wasn't there. And when that happens, things always change. And Triple H wanted Owens to just attack me, like just out of nowhere. Because this is too long, it's too much. Why would he attack you early? I said, well, because it's just the drama. It's Game of Thrones. It's the Red Wedding, which you've ever seen. That's one of the most riveting turns in history, where you never see it coming. Even when it happens, you can't believe it. And I said, it's the drama. I pull out the list of KO, and it's like, you know, why is my name on this? And then the realization for me and the audience, like, no. And here he comes. He's like, no, it's too comical. I said, it's not too comical if I don't deliver it comical. Oh, it's the list of KO. How come I'm not on this? No. It's drama. Oh, man, because I don't ever see the list of KO. I just go, oh, that's a new list. It's great. They see the list of KO, but I don't. How come my name's on this? List of KO, realization, And I actually had to have a pretty heated debate with Hunter about that. And I like Hunter a lot. He's a good friend of mine. This is not a Jericho versus Hunter. That was done a long time ago. Very heated debate. And I basically just said, listen, I'll call Vince right now. This is the way to do it. And I think he just kind of threw up his hands and went, okay. And afterwards, and even texted me, he's like, that was great. So great. You totally made the right call on that. And so that was it was so good because like I was using the example of like in a horror movie. If you and I are in a horror movie and Jason Voorhees is going to kill us and he cuts my head off from behind, I never can see it. If you run away and run around a tree and he's standing there and you fall down and like he raises the axe, you're like, no, you know it's coming. The audience knows it's the worst. Those 10 seconds would be the worst of your life. Boom, you're done. If you don't see it coming, whatever. And that's why I wanted that realization of like, and then the classic line, how come my name's on this? List of KO. No, boom. So that's how it was. And the idea was to just answer your question. My idea at first was to be David Lee Roth in 1986. Bozy bop, zitty bop, how are you? And that's how I played it. So the first half is all ridiculous Jericho. Then the second half, it gets a little bit more emotional. Kevin gets a gift from me. You're like, oh, it's great. What's it going to be? Oh, it's a list for myself. List of KO. Oh, no, boom. And that's why it works so well.
And last question on you and Kevin Owens. It goes on to WrestleMania. You have the match there. You have the match at Payback. You win the title. You do the switch on SmackDown. But people are going to ask me to ask you. He's still on SmackDown talking about, I'm the new host of the highlight reel. Is that a hint that maybe it's not the end of that story, or is it something you would revisit again?
Well, I think you would have to, yeah. And the thing is, that was another thing. Like, I didn't know Kevin was even doing that. The highlight. They don't ever tell me anything. They just showed up and people were tweeting about it. Oh, that's pretty funny. And more power to him. It's like, what do you think? The Miz won 7 Intercontinental titles. What if he beats a record? Well, I hope he does. God bless him. Records are made to be broken, My dad had the fastest overtime goal in LA Kings history for about 10 years. And guess what? Somebody got a faster overtime goal. Record's done. But the concept of it is like, I was supposed to just work with Owens and then do Raw the next night and be done. But I was like, I remember thinking a few days before, like, what if I win? What if I win and go to SmackDown and then he kills me there? And I pitched it to Vince, and Vince actually thought it was really cool. And once again, I show up and for the pay-per-view, and Vince isn't there. They want to change it to Owens beating me. Like, well, if Owens beats me, then I'm just done tonight. Like, why would I show up on Raw? Like, the story needs this extra twist because it was a great story from April to April. All the twists and turns. And what if I win? Well, what are you going to do? You're going to beat Owens, and then, then he's going to beat you back, and there's no momentum. I said, there's no momentum in this title anyways. It doesn't mean anything. If I beat him, that's, anything can happen in the WWE. That's what we always say. Nobody thinks I'm going to win. Not one person. Because Jericho's leaving. He's going on tour with Fozzy. What if I win? And then we go to SmackDown, we draw a rating on that show, he beats the out of me, I'm gone. It's the perfect ending story. It's the great Game of Thrones, good guy, bad guy wins, Game of Thrones, and you slice his damn stomach and you get one last thing, go, good guy, go. Boom, good guy's gone, dead, finished. And that's the way I wanted it. That's the way the story should have ended. And it ended at the right time. A week earlier would have been too short, a week longer would have been too long. And when people go, well, you leave, when are you coming back? It's like, that was the right time to leave, trust me, I know what I'm talking about.
I think he does, Chris. 2 great nights in Ireland.
Man.
We'll see you in the UK.
UK, it's going to be great, 2018.
Stay tuned.
Thanks, man.